Welcome back to our channel, History Coins HD. These Lincoln penny 1-cent coins make people rich. Let's find out why. Don't miss out one of these. Who know a single coin make you rich? Let's start this. Coin 1. We are going to talk about a Lincoln 1-cent coin that almost everyone has seen, many people have spent without a second thought, and yet collectors listen very carefully when this date is mentioned. The 1974 Lincoln penny is one of those coins that hides a fascinating story behind its ordinary copper color. At first glance, it looks just like any other penny from your pocket change, but once you understand its background, its minting process, and the rare errors connected to it, you will never look at this coin the same way again. The 1974 Lincoln cent was produced during a time of change in the United States. Inflation was rising, metal prices were climbing, and the U.S. Mint was under pressure to find cheaper ways to produce coins. This single year connects everyday pocket change to one of the most famous experimental coins in American history. While most 1974 pennies were struck in copper-based alloy, behind the scenes the Mint was quietly testing alternative materials. This alone makes the year extremely important to collectors. Most people think rarity means low mintage, but in coin collecting, rarity often comes from mistakes, experiments, and small differences that the public never notices. That is exactly where the 1974 Lincoln penny becomes exciting. Certain examples were struck with dramatic doubled lettering, where Lincoln's date and inscriptions appear doubled due to misalignment during the die creation process. These doubled die coins are not damage, and they are not commonware. They are true mint errors, and collectors search for them carefully using magnification. Another reason collectors love this coin is the wide range of striking errors found on 1974 cents. Off-center strikes, clipped planchets, weak strikes, and broad strikes all exist for this year. When these errors are bold and clear, they turn a common penny into something truly special. Coin lovers know that strong visual errors are far more desirable than small imperfections, and this year offers many opportunities, but the most legendary story connected to this coin is the experimental aluminum cent. In 1974, the U.S. Mint struck a very small number of aluminum Lincoln cents as test pieces. These coins were never meant to enter circulation, and almost all were destroyed. A tiny number survived, creating one of the most mysterious and talked about pennies in U.S. history. These are not coins you find in change, but their existence adds incredible importance to the year and drives collector interest in all 1974 cents. Condition also plays a major role in value. A heavily worn 1974 penny is common, but a sharply struck example with full detail, original color, and no damage becomes far more desirable. Collectors look closely at the cheekbone of Lincoln, the sharpness of the date, and the quality of the mint luster. High-grade examples are much harder to find than most people realize because pennies were heavily used. For collectors and coin lovers, this coin represents more than money. It represents a moment when the U.S. Mint stood at a crossroads, experimenting with materials, fighting rising costs, and accidentally creating varieties that would fascinate collectors decades later. That is why experienced collectors always say never rush when checking your pennies, because history often hides in the smallest coins. Now let us talk about value, and only now. A normal circulated 1974 Lincoln penny is usually worth only a small amount over face value. A high-grade uncirculated example can be worth several dollars. Strong doubled die error examples have sold for hundreds of dollars. Major mint errors such as dramatic off-center strikes can reach into the thousands. And the legendary aluminum 1974 cent has been valued at hundreds of thousands of dollars at auction, making it one of the most valuable Lincoln pennies ever known. If you enjoy learning about rare coins, hidden errors, and the stories behind everyday money, make sure you stay tuned, because the next coin you spend could be history in your hands. Coin 2. We are diving into one of the most famous and most misunderstood Lincoln pennies in United States history. This is a coin that has shocked collectors, fooled beginners, and created legends in the world of numismatics. The 1969 Lincoln 1-cent coin may look simple, but behind its small size is a story of rarity, controversy, and incredible value that every coin lover should understand. The year 1969 was a time of transition in America. The Lincoln cent was still made primarily of copper, and billions were struck for everyday use. Because so many were produced, most people assume every penny from this year is common. That assumption is exactly why this coin continues to surprise collectors. The real story of the 1969 penny is not about normal coins, but about the rare varieties and errors that slipped through the mint unnoticed. When collectors talk about this year, their voices often change tone, because one specific variety from 1969 is considered one of the most dramatic double-die pennies ever made. This was not a small mistake. This was a bold, powerful doubling created during the die manufacturing process. Letters appear clearly doubled, especially in the words Liberty and In God We Trust, and the date itself shows strong separation. This doubling is visible even without magnification, which makes it one of the most exciting error coins for collectors. What makes this story even more fascinating is that when these coins were first discovered, they were mistaken for counterfeits. Some collectors were questioned, and others were accused of altering coins. Eventually, experts confirmed that these were genuine mint errors, officially recognizing one of the rarest Lincoln cents ever released into circulation. From that moment, the 1969 doubled die penny became legendary. Beyond the famous doubled die, the 1969 penny also exists with other collectible characteristics. Off-center strikes, die cracks, broad strikes, and weak strikes can all be found from this year. While not all errors are rare, strong and eye-catching examples attract serious attention. Collectors value coins that clearly show what went wrong during production, turning a simple cent into a piece of mint history. Condition plays a major role in desirability. Most 1969 pennies were heavily circulated, meaning high-grade examples are harder to find than people expect. Coins with sharp details, original luster, and minimal marks are far more desirable. The copper color, whether red, red-brown, or brown, also affects how collectors judge the coin. For coin lovers, this penny represents more than just money. It represents patience, knowledge, and the excitement of discovery. Many collectors dream of finding a rare variety in pocket change, and the 1969 Lincoln cent is one of the few coins where the dream has actually come true for some people. Stories of lucky finds continue to inspire new collectors every year. This coin also teaches an important lesson. Not every valuable coin looks old or worn. Sometimes the most important pieces of history are hiding in plain sight, waiting for someone who knows what to look for. That is why experienced collectors always recommend careful inspection, good lighting, and never rushing through your coins. Now let us talk about value, and only now. A normal circulated 1969 Lincoln penny is generally worth only face value. A well-preserved uncirculated example can be worth several dollars. Strong mint error examples can sell for hundreds of dollars. The famous 1969 doubled die penny has sold at auction for tens of thousands of dollars, and the finest known examples have reached values in the hundreds of thousands of dollars, making it one of the most valuable Lincoln pennies ever discovered. If you love rare coins, hidden errors, and the thrill of history in your hands, listen carefully, check your change, and remember that even a single penny can change everything. Coin 3. We are talking about a Lincoln 1-cent coin that many people ignore, many people underestimate, and many people spend without a second thought. Yet for collectors who truly understand modern U.S. coinage, the 1981 Lincoln penny is a coin that deserves very close attention. This is not a loud coin, not a flashy coin, but it is a coin filled with subtle details, rare varieties, and surprising collector value hiding beneath its simple appearance. The year 1981 was a turning point for the Lincoln cent. The United States Mint was moving toward major changes in composition, technology, and production methods. Copper prices were rising fast, and the days of the traditional copper penny were coming to an end. Coins from this period reflect experimentation, stress on minting equipment, and rapid production to meet demand. These conditions are exactly what create collectible errors and varieties. Most people believe modern pennies cannot be rare, but rarity is not only about age. It is about survival, condition, and mistakes. The 1981 Lincoln cent was struck at multiple mints, and while the total number may sound high, high-quality examples are much scarcer than people realize. Pennies from this era were heavily circulated, poorly stored, and rarely saved in perfect condition. One of the most interesting aspects of the 1981 penny is the existence of multiple double die varieties. These are not scratches or damage. These are mint-created errors caused during the die preparation process. Certain examples show noticeable doubling in the date, Lincoln's profile, and lettering. While some are minor, others are strong enough to attract serious collector attention, especially when confirmed by experts. Another reason collectors study this year carefully is the wide range of striking errors. Off-center strikes, broad strikes, die cracks, cuds, and weak strikes are all known for 1981 cents. When these errors are dramatic and clearly visible, they transform an ordinary penny into a conversation piece. Error collectors value coins that clearly show the story of what went wrong inside the minting press. Composition also matters. 1981 pennies were still primarily copper-based, making them part of the final chapter of the classic Lincoln cent metal era. This alone gives the coin historical importance. As the mint prepared to switch materials in the following year, production pressure increased, leading to less consistent strikes and more room for mistakes. Condition is everything with this coin. A worn example is common, but a sharply struck penny with full original luster, strong details on Lincoln's hair, and clean fields is surprisingly difficult to find. Coins graded at the highest levels are extremely scarce because very few were saved carefully at the time. Collectors pay close attention to color as well, with full red examples being far more desirable than brown or red-brown pieces. For coin lovers, the 1981 Lincoln penny is a reminder that collecting is not just about the past. Modern coins carry their own stories, challenges, and rewards. This penny teaches patience, observation, and the importance of knowledge. Many collectors who once ignored modern cents later regretted not saving high-quality examples. This coin also represents the thrill of the hunt. You do not need to visit a museum or auction house to find history. Sometimes history is hiding in a jar, a drawer, or even your pocket. That is why experienced collectors always say to slow down, look closely, and never assume a coin has no value just because it looks ordinary. Now let us talk about value, and only now. A normal circulated 1981 Lincoln penny is usually worth face value. A high-grade uncirculated example can be worth several dollars. Confirmed double die varieties and strong mint errors have sold for hundreds of dollars. The finest known examples in top condition have achieved auction prices reaching into the thousands of dollars, proving that even a modern penny can become a serious collector treasure. If you truly love coins, listen carefully, check every detail, and remember that sometimes the quietest coins tell the most powerful stories. Coin 4. We are talking about one of the most important and dramatic pennies ever made in the United States. This is a coin that represents a turning point, a moment when American coinage changed forever. The 1982 Lincoln 1-cent coin is not just a penny. It is a story of transition, confusion, rarity, and hidden treasure that still excites collectors around the world. For decades, the Lincoln penny was made mostly of copper. People were used to its weight, its sound, and its feel. But by the early 1980s, rising metal prices forced the United States Mint to make a decision that would change the penny forever. 1982 became the year when that change happened, and it happened suddenly, quietly, and with surprising results. During this single year, the Mint produced Lincoln cents in more than one composition and more than one design style. This alone makes the year incredibly important. Some 1982 pennies were struck in the traditional copper alloy, while others were struck on a new zinc core with a thin copper coating. To the average person, they look the same, but to collectors, the difference is massive. What makes this even more fascinating is that there was no announcement to the public. Pennies of different weights and compositions entered circulation together. On top of that, the Mint also changed the size of the date on the coin during the year. This created large date and small date varieties, adding another layer of complexity. Collectors today carefully study the shape of the numbers, especially the 2 and the date, to identify which version they are holding. One of the most talked about aspects of this year is the rare combination varieties. Certain versions were produced in extremely small numbers, either intentionally or by accident. These coins are not easy to identify without knowledge, patience, and sometimes a scale. That is why the 1982 penny has become a favorite teaching coin for collectors. It rewards those who learn the details. Mint errors also play a huge role in the desirability of this coin. Because the mint was switching materials and adjusting equipment, mistakes happened. Off-center strikes, weak strikes, improper metal planchets, and die errors can be found from this year. When a coin clearly shows that something went wrong during production, collectors take notice. Strong, obvious errors are especially valuable. Condition is another key factor. Pennies from 1982 were heavily circulated. Very few people saved them, and even fewer saved them carefully. As a result, high-quality examples with full original luster and sharp details are far scarcer than most people expect. Collectors look closely at Lincoln's hair, the sharpness of the lettering, and the overall eye appeal for coin lovers. This penny tells a powerful story. It represents the end of one era and the beginning of another. It teaches that even modern coins can be historically important and that knowledge can turn an ordinary object into something extraordinary. Many collectors today say they wish they had paid more attention to their change during this time. The thrill of the 1982 Lincoln penny is that it can still be found. It might be in a jar, a drawer, or an old roll of coins. That possibility keeps collectors searching, weighing, comparing, and learning. This coin proves that collecting is not just about age, but about understanding history in detail. Now let us talk about value, and only now. A normal circulated 1982 Lincoln penny is usually worth face value. A high-grade uncirculated example can be worth several dollars. Scarce composition and date variety combinations can be worth hundreds of dollars. Major mint errors and the rarest confirmed varieties have sold at auction for thousands of dollars, making the 1982 Lincoln penny one of the most important modern cents ever produced. If you truly love coins, listen carefully, check every penny closely, and remember that history sometimes hides in the smallest change you carry every day. Coin 5. We are going to explore a Lincoln 1-cent coin that often stays quiet in collections, rarely makes headlines, and yet holds a deep and fascinating place in United States coin history. The 1966 Lincoln penny is a coin many people overlook, but collectors who understand its background know that this year carries a unique story of change, pressure, and hidden rarity that deserves close attention. The mid-1960s were a difficult time for American coinage. Rising demand for coins, metal shortages, and public hoarding created serious problems for the U.S. Mint. To keep coins flowing into circulation, the Mint made unusual decisions, and 1966 became one of the most unusual years for the Lincoln cent. During this period, mint marks were intentionally removed from coins to discourage hoarding, making 1966 pennies different from most others before and after it. Because there is no mint mark, all 1966 Lincoln cents were struck at the Philadelphia Mint, but that does not mean they are all the same. In fact, the pressure to produce massive numbers of coins quickly resulted in a wide variety of striking qualities. Some coins were sharply struck, while others show weak details, uneven surfaces, or incomplete features. These differences are important to collectors who study how coins were made. One of the most interesting aspects of the 1966 penny is the presence of doubled die varieties. These are true mint errors created during the die preparation process, not damage after the coin left the mint. Some examples show doubling in the lettering, date, or Lincoln's features. While not all doubled dies are dramatic, the clearer examples are highly desirable to collectors who specialize in error coins. Die cracks, die chips, and cuds are also known for this year. These occur when the coin dies were used beyond their normal lifespan due to heavy production demands. When metal flows into cracked or broken areas of the die, it creates raised lines or blobs on the finished coin. Strong examples clearly show the stress the mint was under at the time, turning an ordinary penny into a piece of industrial history. Condition plays a major role in the appeal of the 1966 Lincoln cent. Most were heavily circulated, meaning coins with full detail and original luster are far less common than the mintage numbers suggest. Collectors look closely at Lincoln's hair, the sharpness of the lettering, and the smoothness of the fields. Full red examples are especially difficult to find and are prized by serious collectors. Another reason this coin attracts attention is its place in history. It represents a moment when the mint prioritized speed over perfection, creating coins that tell a story through their imperfections. For coin lovers, this makes the 1966 penny more than just a cent. It becomes a lesson in how economic pressure can shape even the smallest details of everyday money. Many collectors today enjoy searching rolls and old collections for this coin, knowing that hidden varieties and high-grade examples still exist. The excitement comes from understanding what to look for and recognizing something special where others see only pocket change. That sense of discovery is what keeps coin collecting alive and exciting. Now let us talk about value, and only now. A normal circulated 1966 Lincoln penny is generally worth face value. A well-preserved uncirculated example can be worth several dollars. Strong doubled die varieties and dramatic mint errors have sold for hundreds of dollars. The finest known examples in top condition have reached auction prices in the thousands of dollars, proving that even a quiet year like 1966 can produce coins of serious collector value. If you truly love coins, listen carefully, study every detail, and remember that sometimes the most interesting stories are hidden in the pennies everyone else ignores. Coin 6. We are going to explore a Lincoln 1-cent coin that many people have held in their hands without realizing how important it truly is. The 1963 Lincoln penny may look like a normal copper cent, but for collectors who understand minting history and subtle details, this coin represents a fascinating chapter in American coinage. It is a coin that quietly connects everyday pocket change with serious collector interest. The year 1963 was a busy time for the United States Mint. The country was growing, commerce was expanding, and demand for coins was extremely high. The Denver Mint worked non-stop to strike Lincoln cents for circulation, and the result was massive production under intense pressure. When mints operate at this speed, perfection is often sacrificed, and that is where the story of this penny becomes exciting. Because so many 1963 pennies were struck, people often assume they are all common. In reality, true collector value comes from details, condition, and mint-created errors. Many coins from this year show weak strikes, especially in Lincoln's hair and the lettering. Strong, well-struck examples are much harder to find than most people realize, especially with full original luster still intact. One of the most interesting aspects of the 1963 penny is the presence of doubled die varieties. These errors were created during the die manufacturing process, not after the coin entered circulation. Some examples show noticeable doubling in the date or lettering, and when the doubling is clear and verified, collectors take strong interest. These varieties are subtle enough that many remain undiscovered in old collections. Die cracks, die chips, and cuds are also found on coins from this year. Because the Denver Mint reused dies longer than normal to meet production demands, cracks developed and transferred directly onto the coins. Raised lines or blobs of metal may appear, creating unique fingerprints that tell the story of stressed mint equipment. Error collectors value these coins because no two are exactly the same. Condition is one of the most critical factors for this coin. Most 1963 pennies were heavily circulated, spent quickly, and stored carelessly. As a result, high-grade examples with sharp detail and clean surfaces are surprisingly scarce today. Collectors look carefully at the coin's color, surface quality, and strike strength. Full red examples are especially desirable and difficult to locate. Another reason collectors appreciate this coin is its historical position. It was produced just before major changes in U.S. coinage composition and minting technology. The 1963 penny represents the final years of the classic copper Lincoln cent era, making it important not just for its errors, but for what it represents in American history. For coin lovers, this penny teaches an important lesson. Not every valuable coin looks rare at first glance. Sometimes value is hidden in small details that only careful observation can reveal. That is why experienced collectors always slow down, use good lighting, and never dismiss a coin too quickly. Searching through old rolls, jars, and inherited collections can still bring surprises. Many 1963 pennies remain unchecked, waiting for someone with knowledge and patience. That sense of discovery is what keeps collectors passionate and engaged year after year. Now let us talk about value, and only now. A normal circulated 1963 Lincoln penny is usually worth face value. A well-preserved uncirculated example can be worth several dollars. Confirmed doubled die varieties and strong mint errors have sold for hundreds of dollars. The finest known examples in top condition have reached auction prices in the thousands of dollars, proving that even a common-looking penny can become a serious collector treasure. If you truly love coins, listen carefully, examine every detail, and remember that history often hides in the smallest pieces of change you carry every day. Coins 7. We are going to focus on a Lincoln 1-cent coin that quietly holds an important place in United States coin history. The 1961 Lincoln penny is often mistaken as ordinary pocket change, yet for collectors who understand mint production and subtle details, this coin tells a powerful story. It represents a period of heavy demand, intense minting pressure, and hidden varieties that many people still overlook. In 1961, the Denver Mint was working at full speed. America was growing rapidly, commerce was strong, and coins were needed everywhere. Millions of Lincoln cents were struck, and when production reaches this level, consistency becomes difficult. This is where collectors find interest, because high-speed minting often leads to variations that were never intended. Most 1961 pennies show signs of weak strikes, especially in Lincoln's hair and the central design. Finding a sharply struck example with full detail is far more difficult than people expect. Collectors carefully study the depth of the lettering, the clarity of the date, and the overall balance of the strike to determine quality. One of the key attractions of this coin is the presence of doubled die varieties. These are genuine mint errors created during the die manufacturing process, not damage after circulation. Some examples display noticeable doubling in the date or lettering. When confirmed, these coins become highly desirable because they represent mistakes that occurred before a single coin was ever struck. Die cracks, die chips, and other die-related errors are also found on 1961 cents. Because dies were often used longer than normal to meet demand, stress fractures developed. These fractures appear as raised lines or shapes on the finished coin, turning a standard penny into a unique artifact of industrial history. Condition plays a critical role in collector interest. Most of these pennies entered circulation immediately and were heavily used. As a result, coins with clean surfaces, strong luster, and original copper color are much scarcer than the mintage numbers suggest. Full red examples are especially prized, as copper cents tend to darken quickly over time. This coin also holds historical importance. It comes from the final years before major changes in U.S. coinage composition and minting technology. The 1961 penny reflects a time when copper cents were still standard and production efficiency mattered more than cosmetic perfection. For collectors, this penny teaches patience and attention to detail. Many valuable coins are not obvious at first glance. They require careful examination and an understanding of what makes one coin different from another. That is why experienced collectors never rush through their coins. Searching old rolls, jars, and collections can still reveal surprises. Many 1961 pennies remain unchecked, waiting for someone who knows what to look for. This possibility keeps collectors excited and engaged, even decades later. Now let us talk about value, and only now. A normal circulated 1961 Lincoln penny is usually worth face value. A well-preserved uncirculated example can be worth several dollars. Verified doubled die varieties and strong mint errors have sold for hundreds of dollars. The finest known examples in top condition have reached auction prices in the thousands of dollars, showing that even a quiet-looking penny can become a serious collector prize. If you truly love coins, listen carefully, study every detail, and remember that sometimes the smallest coins carry the biggest stories.